The alarm screamed through the metal corridors of Forward Base Titan 7, and Minji Kim ran as fast as her legs could carry her. She was small, barely reaching the shoulders of most soldiers around her, and her uniform always seemed too big. The other soldiers pushed past her, knocking her against the wall as they rushed to their stations. "Move it, kid," Corporal Hinwoo Choi shouted at her, his face twisted in annoyance. He didn't even slow down to see if she was okay. Minji picked herself up and kept running. She had been with this battalion for 3 months now, and every single day felt the same. Nobody took her seriously. Nobody wanted her here. At 19 years old, she was the youngest soldier on the base, and everyone made sure she knew it. She reached the briefing room just as Captain Daeho Park began speaking. The captain was a tall man with cold eyes and a voice that demanded attention. He barely glanced at Minji as she slipped into the back of the room. "Listen up," Captain Park said. "The Varkan Empire has launched an attack on the outer colonies. 3 stations have already gone dark. We're being deployed to defend Station Helios 9. This is not a drill. We leave in 20 minutes. The room exploded with noise as soldiers grabbed their gear and started preparing. Minji felt her heart pounding in her chest. This was her first real combat situation. She had trained for months, but training was different from actual battle. "Hey, kid," Private Taeyan Kong said, walking up to her with a mean smile. "Try not to cry when you see the aliens, okay? We don't need dead weight out there." Several soldiers laughed. Minji said nothing. She had learned that responding only made things worse. She just grabbed her equipment and followed the others to the transport ships. The flight to Station Helios 9 took 2 hours. Minji sat in the corner of the transport, checking her weapon over and over. Across from her, Sergeant Jiwon Lee was talking loudly with the other. "Soldiers, I heard the Varkan are 8 feet tall," one soldier said. "I heard they eat there." "Prisoners," another added. Sergeant Jiwon Lee laughed. "Don't worry. We'll handle them. Just stay in formation and follow orders. And someone keep an eye on the kid. Make sure she doesn't get lost." More laughter. Minji stared at the floor. She wanted to prove herself. She wanted to show them she belonged here. But doubt gnawed at her insides. What if they were right? What if she really was just dead weight? When they arrived at Station Helios 9, the place was already under attack. Explosions rocked the station, and people were screaming. The civilian population was trying to evacuate, and it was complete chaos. "Alpha Squad, take the East Corridor. Beta Squad, West Corridor. Secure the evacuation routes." Captain Park's orders cut through the noise. Minji was assigned to Beta Squad under Sergeant Jiwon Lee. They moved through the station quickly, their weapons ready. The Varkan ships were bombing the station from outside, and pieces of the ceiling kept falling. That's when Minji noticed something strange. She had studied the station's layout during the flight, and she realized the enemy wasn't just bombing randomly. There was a pattern. The explosions were hitting specific points, like they were trying to herd everyone toward the center of the station. "Sergeant," Minji said, trying to keep her voice steady, "I think the enemy is pushing us into a trap. Look at the damage pattern. They're forcing the evacuation toward Section C." Sergeant Jiwon Lee didn't even look at her. "Save your theories, kid. Just keep moving. But if we go to Section C, we'll be—" "I said keep moving." Minji fell silent. She wanted to argue, wanted to make them listen, but she was just a private. Nobody cared what she thought. They continued toward Section C with the evacuating civilians. The corridor was packed with frightened people, children crying, adults pushing and shoving. Minji helped an old woman who had fallen, making sure she didn't get trampled. "Leave her!" Corporal Hinwoo Choi yelled. "We need to move." "She'll die if we leave her," Minji said. Not our problem. But Minji couldn't leave the woman. She helped her up and half carried her toward the evacuation ships. Behind her, she could hear Corporal Hyung-woo Choi cursing her name. Then it happened. Just as they reached Section C, a massive explosion tore through the station. The Varkin had been waiting. Their ships appeared from nowhere and started destroying the evacuation vessels. People were dying everywhere. Ambush! Fall back! Fall back! Captain Park's voice screamed over the radio. The retreat was a nightmare. Soldiers and civilians ran in every direction. Minji kept helping people, pulling wounded soldiers toward the remaining ships, carrying children whose parents had been killed. She didn't think about her own safety. She just knew people needed help. By the time she made it back to the transport, most of Beta Squad was already there. They glared at her as she climbed aboard, exhausted and covered in dust and blood. "Where the hell were you?" Sergeant Ji-won Lee demanded. "I was helping the wounded," Minji said quietly. "You were supposed to stay with your squad. You could have gotten yourself killed." People needed help. People died because of the delay, Corporal Hyun-woo Choi said, his voice full of venom. "We had to wait for you. We lost good soldiers waiting." Minji's stomach dropped. That wasn't true. She had seen them board the ship before she even reached it. But nobody would believe her. They never did. The transport lifted off from Station Helios 9, just as the station exploded behind them. The Varkin had destroyed it completely. Over 2,000 people had been on that station. Maybe 300 made it out alive. Back on Titan 7, the survivors gathered in the main hangar. Captain Park was giving a report to Admiral Sora Han, the station commander. Minji stood at the back of the group, trying to be invisible. "The attack was coordinated," Captain Park said. "They knew exactly where to hit us. We never had a chance." Admiral Sora Han was a woman in her 50s with gray hair and sharp eyes. "We need to understand their tactics. We need to be ready for the next attack." "Ma'am," Corporal Hyun-woo Choi spoke up, "we might have held longer if certain soldiers had followed orders. Private Minji Kim delayed our evacuation by staying behind to play hero." All eyes turned to Minji. She felt her face burning. "Is this true, Private?" Admiral Han asked. "I was helping wounded civilians, ma'am," Minji said softly. "She abandoned her squad," Sergeant Ji-won Lee added. "We almost left without her." Admiral Han looked at Minji for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Dismissed. Everyone get some rest. We'll debrief properly in the morning." As the soldiers filed out, Minji heard them whispering. She heard her name mixed with words like coward and liability and mistake. Private Taeyeon Kong shoved past her hard enough to make her stumble. That night, Minji lay in her bunk and stared at the ceiling. She had tried to warn them about the trap. She had tried to save lives. And now everyone blamed her for the disaster. Maybe they were right, she thought. Maybe she didn't belong here. Maybe she was just a foolish girl playing soldier. But deep in her chest, beneath all the doubt and fear, a small fire burned. She had seen the pattern in the Varkin attack. She had understood their strategy, even if nobody listened. That had to mean something, didn't it? She closed her eyes, but sleep wouldn't come. Tomorrow would be another day of mockery and blame. Another day of being invisible. She had no idea that in 3 days, everything would change. She had no idea that the enemy had noticed her, had seen what her own people couldn't see. She had no idea that soon she would become the most important soldier in the entire human fleet. 3 days passed like a slow nightmare. The Varkin fleet had surrounded Titan 7, cutting off all escape routes. Their massive ships hung in space like dark mountains, blocking out the stars. Everyone on the station knew it was only a matter of time before they attacked. Minji spent those 3 days doing whatever work she was assigned. She cleaned weapons, ran supplies, and tried to stay out of everyone's way. The other soldiers ignored her completely now. Even Private Narration, who had sometimes been kind to her, avoided making eye contact. On the morning of the 4th day, Minji was in the supply room counting ammunition when the alarm started again. But this time, they were different. Not the attack alarm, the communication alarm. "All personnel to command center," a voice announced over the speakers. "We have an incoming transmission from the Varkan fleet." Minji's hands shook as she put down the ammunition boxes. An enemy transmission? That had never happened before. The Varkan didn't talk to humans. They just attacked and destroyed. She followed the other soldiers to the command center. The large room was packed with people, all staring at the main view screen. Admiral Sorahan stood at the front, her face pale. Captain Deho Park stood beside her, looking equally shocked. "Quiet!" Admiral Han shouted. "Everyone be quiet." The room fell silent. On the view screen, static cleared to reveal an alien face. The Varkan was massive, with dark gray skin and 4 yellow eyes arranged in a square pattern on his face. His mouth was filled with sharp teeth, and when he spoke, his voice was like grinding metal. "Humans of Titan 7, the alien said in perfect English. "I am Warlord Crevenal, commander of the Varkan Assault Fleet. I bring you terms." Admiral Han stepped forward. "We're listening." "Your species interests us," Crevenal said. "You fight poorly. You die easily. But among you, there is one who thinks differently. One who saw our pattern at Station Helios 9. Minji felt ice running through her veins. No, it couldn't be. "We demand to speak with the small human female soldier, the one with tactical awareness. Our sensors identified her, attempting to warn her superiors of our trap. She understood what others did not." The entire command center erupted in confusion. Officers started shouting questions. Soldiers looked around, trying to figure out who the Varkan was talking about. Captain Park leaned toward Admiral Han. "What is he talking about? Which soldier?" But Admiral Han was already looking through the crowd. Her eyes found Minji standing near the back, and her expression changed. Private Kim stepped forward. Minji's legs didn't want to move. Everyone was staring at her now. Corporal Hyunwoo Choi's mouth hung open in shock. Sergeant Jiwan Lei looked confused and angry. "Move, Private," Admiral Han said, her voice firm. Minji pushed through the crowd. Her heart hammered so hard, she thought it might break through her chest. She reached the front and stood beside Admiral Han, facing the view screen. Warlord Crevenal's 4 eyes focused on her. Yes, this one. Small, young, dismissed by her own kind. But she has the sight. What do you want with her? Admiral Han demanded. "The Varkan respect only strength and wisdom," Crevenal said. "We have watched your species for many cycles. You are weak. You fight without honor or strategy. But this one is different. She saw our pattern. She understood our movement. Therefore, she has earned the right to challenge us." "Challenge you?" Admiral Han's voice rose. "What does that mean?" "It is Varkan law. When an enemy shows true warrior insight, they may lead their people in trial by combat. This small female will command your defense forces. If she holds Titan 7 for 72 hours, we will grant your species a peace treaty and withdraw. If she fails, everyone dies." The command center exploded with noise. Officers shouted objections. Soldiers yelled that it was insane. Captain Park stepped forward, his face red with anger. "Absolutely not," he shouted at the screen. "She's barely out of basic training. She's 19 years old. You can't expect us to put her in command." "We do not expect," Crevenal said calmly. "We require." She commands, or we destroy this station immediately. You have 1 hour to decide. The transmission ended. The view screen went black. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then everyone started talking at once. Captain Park was arguing with Admiral Han. Sergeant Jiwan Lai was saying it had to be some kind of trick. Other soldiers were saying Minji must have done something to betray them, that she must be working with the enemy. Minji stood frozen. This couldn't be happening. She didn't want this. She had just noticed a pattern. That was all. She wasn't a commander. She wasn't even a good soldier. Private Kim, Admiral Han said quietly, come with me. They went to the Admiral's office, a small room away from the chaos. Admiral Han closed the door and turned to face Minji. For a long moment, she just studied her. Did you really see their pattern at Station Helios 9? She asked. Yes, ma'am, Minji said, her voice barely a whisper. I tried to tell Sergeant Jiwan Lee, but he didn't listen. What did you see? The bombing pattern. They weren't hitting randomly. They were herding us towards Section C. It was a trap. Admiral Han nodded slowly. And you're right. I reviewed the attack data last night. It was exactly as you described. A coordinated trap. She sat down heavily in her chair. So the question is, do I put a 19-year-old private in command of our entire defense? I can't do it, Minji said quickly. Ma'am, I'm not qualified. I don't know how to command. I'll get everyone killed. If I refuse, the Varkin will kill everyone anyway, Admiral Han said. At least this way, we have a chance. She looked up at Minji. Tell me honestly, do you think you can do it? Minji wanted to say no. She wanted to run away and hide. But she thought about all the people on this station. Thousands of soldiers and civilians, children, families. They would all die if she said no. I don't know, she whispered, but I'll try. Admiral Han stood and held out her hand. Then you have my full support. As of this moment, you are promoted to acting tactical commander. You will have complete authority over the defense of this station. They shook hands, and Minji felt like she was in a dream. A terrible, impossible dream. The meeting was called in the war room. Every senior officer on the station was there. When Minji walked in behind Admiral Han, the room went silent. Captain Park stood up, his face dark with anger. Admiral, you cannot be serious about this. I am completely serious, Admiral Han said. The Varkin have given us no choice. Private Kim commands the defense. That is final. She's a child, Lieutenant Sun Ho Kwan said. He was older than the other officers, a veteran of 20 years. How can we expect her to lead? The Varkin expect it, Admiral Han said. That's all that matters. Captain Park slammed his fist on the table. This is insane. I have 15 years of command experience. Let me lead the defense. The Varkin asked for her specifically, Admiral Han said. Do you want to test whether they're bluffing? Do you want to risk 7,000 lives on your pride? Captain Park's face went even redder, but he said nothing. He sat down hard, glaring at Minji with pure hatred. Admiral Han turned to Minji. The station is yours, Commander. Tell us what you need. Commander. The word felt wrong. Too big. Too heavy. Minji looked around the room at all the faces staring at her. Some angry. Some confused. Some just waiting to see her fail. She saw Corporal Hyunwoo Choi in the back, his arms crossed. She saw Sergeant Jiwan Lee shaking his head in disgust. Only one person looked at her with anything like trust. Private Narayun stood near the door, and when their eyes met, she gave Minji a small nod. Minji took a deep breath. I need all the data we have on Varkin attack patterns. Every battle, every engagement. I need building schematics for the entire station. And I need a team of engineers. Why engineers? Captain Park asked mockingly. Planning to rebuild the station while they're shooting at us? I need to modify the defense systems, Minji said quietly. She was terrified, but she kept her voice steady. If we fight them the normal way, we'll lose. We need to do something they won't expect. Admiral Han nodded. You'll have everything you need. Everyone in this room will follow your orders as if they were my own. Is that understood? Reluctant nods around the room, but Minji could see it in their eyes. They didn't believe in her. They were just waiting for her to fail so they could say they were right all along. She had 72 hours to prove them wrong. 72 hours to save everyone. 72 hours to show that the girl they had mocked and dismissed could do what? None of them could, and she had absolutely no idea if she could actually do it. The war room became Minji's prison. For 18 hours straight, she studied every piece of data about the Varkan that humanity had collected. Her eyes burned. Her head pounded. Coffee grew cold in cups around her workspace. The other officers had left hours ago, making it clear they thought this was a waste of time. Only Lieutenant Sun Ho Kwon remained, sitting across from her in silence. He was old enough to be her father, with gray in his hair and scars on his hands from old battles. You should rest, he said finally. I can't, Minji said, staring at the screen in front of her. We have 54 hours left. You'll be useless if you're exhausted. I'm already useless? The words came out before she could stop them. She looked up at him. You know it? Everyone knows it. I don't know what I'm doing. Lieutenant Sun Ho Kwon leaned back in his chair. I've served for 20 years. I've seen a lot of commanders. Most of them were certain they knew everything. They got their soldiers killed with their certainty. He pointed at her screens. You've been studying for 18 hours. A certain commander would have made a plan in 2 hours and spent the rest of the time sleeping. Maybe doubt isn't such a bad thing. Minji wanted to believe him, but she couldn't. She turned back to her data. That's when she saw it. Hidden in the battle reports from 6 different engagements, there was a pattern. The Varkan always attacked in the same sequence. First, they bombed communication arrays, then shield generators, then weapons platforms. The timing was always exactly the same, like they were following a script. They're predictable, she whispered. What? Look at this. She pulled up the reports. Every battle, same order, same timing. They're not adapting. They're following some kind of honor code or military tradition. Lieutenant Sun Ho Kwon studied the screens. His eyes widened. You're right. They fight like they're performing a ritual. Which means we can predict what they'll do, Minji said. Her mind was racing now. And if we can predict it, we can prepare for it. She started drawing up plans. It was crazy. It went against everything in the standard military handbook. But maybe that was the point. The Varkan expected humans to fight like humans always fought. So she would fight differently. At hour 20. Captain Park entered the war room with Sergeant Ji-won Lai and Corporal Hyun-woo Choi. They looked at her with barely concealed contempt. Admiral Han wants your defense plan, Captain Park said. Though I'm sure it will be very impressive for someone with 3 months of experience. Minji pulled up her tactical display. We're going to evacuate sections 2, 5, and 7 completely. No personnel, no defenses. We make them dead zones? That's insane, Corporal Hyun-woo Choi said immediately. Those are key defensive positions. Exactly, Minji said. The Varkan will expect us to defend them. When we don't, it will break their attack pattern. They'll have to adapt, and adaptation takes time. Or they'll just waltz through and destroy us, Sergeant Ji-won Lai said. Not if we funnel them. Minji highlighted corridors on the map. The dead zones forced them into these 3 corridors. We put our main defenses here, here, and here. Overlapping fields of fire. They'll be bottlenecked. Captain Park studied the map with narrowed eyes. You're abandoning 30% of the station to create 3 kill zones. If this fails, we'll have given up critical territory for nothing. If we fight them the normal way, we lose, Minji said. I've studied every battle. Standard defensive positions don't work against the Varkan. They expect them. They've learned to counter them. This is ridiculous, Corporal Hinwoo Choi said. We're going to die following the orders of a little girl playing commander. Lieutenant Sun Ho Kwon stood up. That's enough, Corporal. She's the commander. You'll show respect, or I'll have you in the brig. Corporal Hinwoo Choi's face went red, but he fell silent. Captain Park continued staring at the tactical display. What else? I need civilian engineers, Minji said. The shield generators can be modified to pulse at irregular intervals. The Varkan targeting systems are designed for steady shields. If we pulse randomly, their weapons will have trouble locking on. Pulse shields violate about 20 safety protocols, Sergeant Jiwan Lee said. We're about to be attacked by an alien fleet, Minji said quietly. I think safety protocols are not our biggest problem right now. For the first time, she saw something that might have been respect flicker across Sergeant Jiwan Lee's face. But it was gone in an instant. I'll take this to Admiral Han, Captain Park said. But if this plan fails, the blood is on your hands. If this plan fails, we're all dead anyway, Minji said. So the blame won't matter much. Captain Park left without another word. Corporal Hinwoo Choi and Sergeant Jiwan Lee followed him. Only Lieutenant Sun Ho Kwon remained. That took courage, he said. That took stupidity, Minji corrected. I just told a captain that I'm willing to gamble everyone's lives on my crazy theory. Sometimes courage and stupidity look the same, Lieutenant Sun Ho Kwon said with a small smile. Get some rest, Commander. You'll need it. But Minji didn't rest. She called for the civilian engineers. The lead engineer was a woman named Jio An, about 30 years old, with tired eyes and quick hands. She listened to Minji's shield modification plan and whistled low. That could work, Jie-han said. Or it could overload the generators and blow us all up. What are the odds? Honestly? 60-40. 60% it works. 40% we explode. I'll take those odds, Minji said. How long do you need? 30 hours minimum. And I'll need authorization from Admiral Han. This kind of modification is seriously illegal. I'll get you the authorization. Admiral Han gave it without hesitation. She had committed fully to Minji's command, whatever that meant. Minji wasn't sure if that made her feel better or worse. The countdown continued. 42 hours remaining. 36 hours. 20-4. The evacuations began. Soldiers moved out of sections 2, 5, and 7, grumbling the whole time. They thought Minji was giving up territory for free. They didn't understand the plan, and Minji didn't have time to explain it to everyone. The defenses went up in the 3 designated corridors. Weapons platforms, energy barriers, mine fields. Everything concentrated in those 3 narrow passages. Private Narayun found Minji in the corridor during hour 18. Commander, can I ask you something? Of course, Minji said. It still felt strange to be called Commander. Do you really think this will work? Minji looked at her. Narayun was young, maybe only a year older than Minji herself. She deserved an honest answer. I don't know, Minji admitted. I think it's our best chance. But I don't know. That's okay, Narayun said. At least you're honest. Captain Park always pretended he knew everything. I trust you more. It was a small thing. One person's trust. But it made Minji feel a little less alone. At hour 12, the Varkin sent another transmission. Warlord Crevenel's face appeared on every screen in the station. "Small Commander," he said, "we have watched your preparations. You fight strangely. You abandon territory. You modify your shields in dangerous ways. You are either brilliant or foolish. Soon we will discover which." The transmission ended. "Probably foolish," Minji muttered to herself. The final hours were a blur. Soldiers took their positions. Engineers made final adjustments to the shield generators. Medical teams prepared for casualties. Everyone on the station knew that in a few hours, the battle would begin. Minji stood in the command center, surrounded by officers who didn't trust her and soldiers who thought she was a fraud. She looked at the countdown clock. 3 hours remaining. Her hands were shaking. She hid them behind her back so no one would see. Captain Park approached her. "It's not too late to change the plan," he said quietly. "Let me take command. I can implement a proper defense." "No," Minji said. "This is our best chance. This is suicide." "Maybe, but it's our suicide to choose." Captain Park shook his head and walked away. Lieutenant Sano Kwan appeared at her side. "Whatever happens," he said, "you should know that you've given us a chance. That's more than we had before." "We'll see," Minji said. 2 hours remaining. The Varkin fleet began moving into attack formation. Their massive ships spread out, surrounding the station completely. There would be no escape, no retreat. Either they held for 72 hours, or everyone died. 1 hour remaining. Minji took her place at the command console. Around her, officers watched their screens. Soldiers gripped their weapons. Engineers stood ready to repair damage. Everyone waited. 30 minutes. Minji closed her eyes for just a moment. She thought about her family back on Earth. Her mother who had cried when she joined the military. Her father who had been so proud. They would never know what happened here. If she failed, they would just hear that Titan 7 was destroyed. They would never know their daughter had been in command. Maybe that was better. 10 minutes. "All stations report ready," Lieutenant Sinho Kwan said. "Thank you," Minji said. Her voice came out steadier than she expected. 5 minutes. She opened a station-wide channel. Every soldier, every civilian could hear her now. "This is Commander Kim," she said. The words still felt strange. "In a few minutes, the Varkin will attack. I know many of you don't trust me. I know you think I'm too young, too inexperienced. You're probably right. But I promise you this. I will do everything I can to keep you alive. I will fight for every second of those 72 hours. And I will not give up ever." She closed the channel. 1 minute. The Varkin fleet's weapons powered up. Energy readings spiked across every scanner. 30 seconds. "Here they come," someone whispered. The countdown reached 0. The siege of Titan 7 began. The first wave hit like a hammer from hell. Plasma bolts hammered into Titan 7's shields, making the entire station shake. Minji gripped the command console to keep from falling as explosions rocked the structure around them. "Shields holding at 70%, Lieutenant Sunho Kwan reported. "They're targeting communication arrays first, just like you predicted. Reroute communications through backup channels," Minji ordered. "Don't let them know we anticipated this." The Varkin followed their pattern exactly. Communication arrays, then shield generators, then weapons platforms. Minji had studied their rituals so carefully that she knew what was coming before they fired. "Enemy boarding craft launching," a sensor officer called out. 12 craft heading for sections 2, 5, and 7. Captain Park turned to Minji. "The dead zones? They're going exactly where you predicted." There was surprise in his voice. Maybe even a hint of respect. "Let them land," Minji said. "Don't fire on the boarding craft. Let them think we're too damaged to respond." Commander, if they establish a foothold, they won't. Trust me. The Varkan boarding craft landed in the 3 abandoned sections. Minji watched the tactical display as enemy soldiers poured out, expecting resistance. They found empty corridors instead. They're confused, Lieutenant Sun Ho Kwan said, studying the scanner readings. Their advance has stopped. They're trying to figure out why there's no defense. Good, Minji said. Now close the blast doors on all 3 sections. Seal them in. Heavy doors slammed shut throughout the dead zones. The Varkan were trapped in empty sections with no strategic value. They're trying to breach the blast doors, a tactical officer reported. But it will take them at least an hour. An hour we won't give them, Minji said. She opened a channel to the engineering teams. Jian, are you ready? The engineer's voice came back crackling with static. The modified shield generators are ready. But Commander, I have to warn you again. This is incredibly dangerous. Do it. Yes, ma'am. The shield generators throughout the station began pulsing at random intervals. The steady protective barrier that had covered Titan 7 started flickering on and off in unpredictable patterns. Varkan weapons fire that had been steadily hammering the shields suddenly started missing. Their targeting systems couldn't lock onto the irregular pulses. Enemy fire effectiveness down by 40%. Someone shouted. A cheer went up in the command center. Soldiers who had been certain they were about to die suddenly saw a chance. Even Captain Park was smiling. But Minji didn't smile. This was just the beginning. They had 69 hours left. The Varkan adapted faster than she hoped. Within 2 hours, they changed their firing patterns, trying to match the shield pulses. More enemy boarding craft launched, this time targeting different sections. They're learning, Minji muttered. All commanders learn, Lieutenant Sun Ho Kwan said. The question is, can we learn faster? The new boarding parties tried to land near the main reactor. Minji had expected this too. She had positioned Corporal Hyunwoo Choi's squad to defend that area. But Corporal Hyunwoo Choi didn't follow orders. Commander, Corporal Hyunwoo Choi has moved his squad away from the reactor, a communications officer reported. He's engaging the enemy in Corridor 12 instead. Minji felt ice in her stomach. Why? I ordered him to hold position at the reactor. He reports that he saw a better tactical opportunity. Get him on the channel, now. Corporal Hyunwoo Choi's face appeared on her screen. Behind him, she could hear weapons fire and explosions. Corporal, return to your assigned position immediately, Minji ordered. Negative, Commander. There's a whole squad of Varkan here. If I can take them out, you'll leave the reactor undefended. Get back to your position. I know what I'm doing, kid. I've been a soldier longer than the transmission cut off. An explosion. Then static. We've lost contact with Corridor 12, someone reported. And enemy forces are approaching the reactor. No defensive units in position. This was it. This was where her plan fell apart. One soldier who didn't trust her had just doomed everyone. Lieutenant Sun Ho Kwan, take your squad and get to that reactor now, Minji said. Private Narration, you're with him. They ran. Minji watched the tactical display, her heart pounding. The Varkan were meters from the reactor. If they breached it, the explosion would destroy half the station. Lieutenant Sun Ho Kwan's squad arrived with 30 seconds to spare. The firefight was brutal. Minji watched the casualty reports coming in. 3 soldiers down. 5, 7. We're holding them. Lieutenant Sun Ho Kwan's voice came through the channel, strained. But it's close. Then Private Taeyeon Kang did something unexpected. The same soldier who had mocked Minji and called her dead weight charged directly at the Varkan line. He threw himself at the enemy, firing his weapon at point-blank range. Kang, fall back. Lieutenant Sun Ho Kwan shouted Dot, but Taeyan Kong didn't fall back. He kept fighting, even when he was hit, even when he should have been dead. His sacrifice gave Lieutenant Sunho Kwan's squad the seconds they needed to reinforce the position. The Varkan assault on the reactor failed. The enemy forces retreated, leaving their dead behind. "Reactor secure," Lieutenant Sunho Kwan reported. "But Private Kong is down. Medical team is working on him now." Minji closed her eyes for a moment. Taeyan Kong had saved them. The soldier who hated her had given everything to protect the station, and Corporal Hyun-woo Choi was dead, along with most of his squad. She had heard it in the report. His recklessness had killed him, and nearly killed everyone else. She didn't have time to process it. The battle continued. Hour 12. The station was battered, but holding. Sections of the outer hull were gone, exposed to space. The modified shields were working, but 2 generators had overloaded. Ji-An and her engineers were working around the clock to keep the rest functional. Hour 24. 1 day down, 2 to go. The Varkan changed tactics, sending smaller, more frequent attacks instead of massive waves. They were testing the defenses, looking for weak points. Minji barely slept. Every time she tried to close her eyes, she saw Corporal Hyun-woo Choi's face, heard Taeyan Kong's final transmission, counted the casualties: 43 soldiers dead, 92 wounded. And they weren't even halfway through. Captain Park approached her during a brief lull in the fighting. His uniform was stained with soot and blood. He looked exhausted. "I owe you an apology," he said quietly. Minji looked up at him in surprise. "I was wrong about you," he continued. "Your plan is working. We would have been destroyed hours ago if we had fought conventionally. I should have trusted you." "Corporal Hyun-woo Choi didn't," Minji said. Her voice came out bitter. "And now he's dead." "Corporal Hyun-woo Choi died because he was arrogant," Captain Park said. "Not because of your orders. He made his choice. Don't carry that weight." But Minji would carry it. She knew she would. Hour 36. The Varkan sent another transmission. Warlord Krevenal appeared on the main screen again, his 4 eyes studying Minji with something that might have been approval. "Small commander," he said. "You fight well. You think beyond your training. You have earned the respect of the Varkan fleet. But the hardest part is yet to come. We have one final test for you." The transmission ended. "What does that mean?" Sergeant Jiwan Lei asked. She had been fighting alongside her soldiers for the entire battle, and Minji had noticed her following orders without question now. "It means they're about to do something we haven't seen before," Minji said. Hour 40. The scanners detected something massive moving behind the Varkan fleet. A ship bigger than anything they had faced. It pushed through the smaller vessels like a mountain moving through hills. "What is that?" Someone whispered. Minji stared at the tactical display. The ship was enormous, and according to the energy readings, it carried a weapon powerful enough to destroy the entire station with a single shot. "It's a dreadnought," Lieutenant Sinho Kwan said quietly. "Station killer class. If they fire that weapon, nothing we have can stop it." The command center went silent. Everyone understood what this meant. All their fighting, all their sacrifice, all their clever tactics meant nothing against that weapon. "How long until it's in firing range?" Minji asked. Her voice shook slightly. 20 hours, Lieutenant Sunho Kwan said. "Well within our 72-hour limit. So they're going to destroy us anyway," Sergeant Jiwan Lee said. The whole challenge was a lie. Minji stared at the dreadnought on the screen. Her mind raced. Why would the Varkan bring a station killer weapon to an honor challenge? It didn't make sense, unless... "No," she said slowly. "This is still part of the test. The Varkan respect honor above everything. This weapon violates the terms of the challenge. They're testing whether I'll notice, whether I'll call them on it. Captain Park looked at her like she had gone crazy. You want to challenge them? While they're pointing a planet-killing weapon at us? It's the only move that makes sense, Minji said. If we just wait for them to fire, we die. But if I challenge the honor of using that weapon, maybe we have a chance. That's insane, someone said. Probably, Minji agreed. But I'm out of sane options. She opened a direct channel to the Varkan fleet. Her hands were shaking so hard, she could barely work the controls. Warlord Crevenal, she said, I challenge the honor of your dreadnought. A station killer weapon against a defensive position violates the terms of trial by combat. If you use it, you prove that Varkan honor is worthless. You prove that you're cowards who cannot win a fair fight. She closed the channel. The command center was completely silent. Everyone stared at her in shock. Did you just call the Varkan cowards? Captain Park whispered. Yes, Minji said. She felt like she might throw up. They waited. 1 minute. 5 minutes. 10. Then the Varkan dreadnought's weapons began charging. Energy readings spiked across every scanner. The weapon that could destroy them all was powering up. The dreadnought's weapon glowed brighter and brighter. On every screen in the command center, energy readings climbed toward critical levels. Everyone stood frozen, watching their own death approach. Weapon will reach full charge in 90 seconds, Lieutenant Sun O-Kwan said quietly. At that point, there's nothing we can do. Minji's mind raced. She had gambled everything on Varkan honor, and she had been wrong. They were going to fire. They were going to destroy the station and everyone on it. 80 seconds. Commander, Captain Park said. His voice was steady despite everything. It's been an honor serving with you. Around the command center, other soldiers nodded. Even Sergeant Jiwan Lai, who had dismissed Minji from the start, gave her a salute. 60 seconds. Minji wanted to say something. Wanted to apologize for getting them all killed. But the words wouldn't come. And the Varkan fleet stopped firing. Every ship went silent at once. The smaller vessels that had been bombarding the station simply stopped, their weapons powering down. What's happening? Someone asked. The dreadnought's energy readings held at critical levels, but didn't rise further. The weapon stayed charged, but didn't fire. 40 seconds. A transmission came through. But it wasn't from Warlord Crevenal. It was a different Varkan, this one with blue markings on his gray skin and only 3 eyes. I am Fleet Commander Corvish, the alien said. His voice was different from Crevenal's, harder, colder. The dreadnought operates under my authority, not Warlord Crevenal's. Your challenge means nothing to me, small human. In 20 seconds, you will all die. The transmission ended. 2 commanders, Minji whispered. She understood now. There's a split in their fleet. Crevenal wants to honor the challenge. But this Corvesh doesn't. 20 seconds. She opened a channel, broadcasting to the entire Varkan fleet. Warlord Crevenal. The galaxy is watching. Will the Varkan be remembered as honorable warriors or as liars who break their word? If you let this happen, every species will know that Varkan honor is meaningless. 10 seconds. No response. The weapon stayed charged. Minji closed her eyes. I'm sorry, she said to everyone in the command center. I'm so sorry. 5 seconds. Then the dreadnought's energy readings dropped. Not slowly, instantly. The weapon powered down completely in less than a second. A new transmission came through. Warlord Crevenal's face filled the screen, and his 4 eyes burned with anger. But the anger wasn't directed at the humans. Fleet Commander Corvish has been removed from command, he said. He attempted to dishonor the Varkan people by violating the terms of trial by combat. He will face judgment from the Council. The small commander was correct to challenge him. Behind Crevenall, Minji could see Varkan soldiers dragging Corvesh away. The blue-marked alien was shouting something, but the transmission didn't include audio of his voice. "The challenge continues," Crevenall said, turning back to face Minji. "You have earned greater respect than any human before you. You understood not just our tactics, but our culture, our honor, our soul. You will complete the remaining hours of the challenge. And whatever the outcome, you have already proven that humanity deserves to survive." The transmission ended. For a moment, nobody moved. Then the entire command center erupted in cheers. Soldiers hugged each other. Officers who had been preparing to die suddenly realized they might live, but Minji just sat down heavily in her chair. Her hands were still shaking. She had been so certain they were about to die. "That was the bravest thing I've ever seen," Lieutenant Sunho Kwan said, sitting beside her. "You called out the commander of an alien fleet while he was about to vaporize us." "That was the stupidest thing I've ever done," Minji corrected. "I just got lucky that I was right. Sometimes lucky and smart are the same thing." The battle continued, but something had changed. The Varkan attacks became less aggressive. It was like they were testing Titan VII's defenses, but no longer trying to actually break through. They were fulfilling the terms of the challenge, but their hearts weren't in it anymore. Hour 50. Minji walked through the medical bay, visiting the wounded. Private Taeyeon Kang was there, wrapped in bandages but alive. The doctors said he would recover, though it would take months. "Commander," he said when he saw her. His voice was weak. "I need to tell you something." Minji sat beside his bed. "What is it?" "I was wrong about you. I called you dead weight. I made fun of you. I was a bully." He looked away. "I'm sorry. You're a better soldier than I'll ever be." "You charged the Varkan line to save the reactor," Minji said quietly. "You almost died saving everyone on this station. That makes you pretty brave in my book." "I was trying to make up for being terrible to you," Taeyeon Kang admitted. "I knew if I died, maybe you'd forgive me." "You don't need to die for forgiveness," Minji said. She put her hand on his. "You just need to be better. And you already are." Tears ran down Taeyeon Kang's face. "Thank you, Commander." Hour 60. The Varkan sent one final assault. A massive wave that hit all sections of the station simultaneously. It was their last test. Their final push to see if Titan VII would hold. The defenses held. Barely, but they held. The kill zones. Minji had funneled the enemy exactly where she wanted them. The pulsing shields threw off their targeting. The overlapping weapons' fire cut them down. Everything she had planned worked together like a machine. Hour 68. The attacks stopped completely. The Varkan fleet simply ceased all hostile action and pulled back to holding distance. "Is it over?" Sergeant Jiwan Lee asked. "Did we win?" 4 hours early, Captain Park said, checking the countdown clock. "They're conceding." Minji couldn't believe it. They had done it. Against impossible odds, with a plan everyone said was crazy, with a commander nobody trusted. They had actually done it. Hour 72 arrived. The official end of the challenge. Warlord Crevenall's face appeared on the screen one final time. "Commander Minji Kim," he said, "you have held Titan VII for the required time. You have demonstrated tactical brilliance, cultural understanding, and personal courage. You have earned the respect of the Varkan Empire. Therefore, we grant humanity a peace treaty. We will withdraw from all human space. In 50 cycles, we will return to test your species again. Use this time to grow stronger, to produce more warriors like you." "Why?" Minji asked. "Why test us at all?" "Because the galaxy is dangerous," Crevenall said. Species that cannot defend themselves do not survive. We test only those we believe have potential. Those who prove themselves earn our respect and our protection. No other species will dare attack you now, for you have passed the trial of the Varkin. You have shown you are worthy of survival. His 4 eyes focused on Minji with something that might have been a smile, though it was hard to tell on his alien face. I look forward to meeting you again in 50 cycles, small commander. By then, I hope you will have risen to lead your people. You have the sight. Do not waste it. The transmission ended. The Varkin fleet turned and began jumping to faster-than-light travel. Within an hour, they were gone completely. The siege of Titan VII was over. The celebration lasted for days. Admiral Sorahan held a formal ceremony in the main hangar. Every soldier on the station was present. Minji stood at the front, feeling completely out of place in her formal uniform. "Private Minji Kim," Admiral Han said, her voice carrying through the hangar. "For extraordinary tactical brilliance and courage under fire, you are hereby promoted to the rank of lieutenant. You are also awarded the Star of Valor, the highest honor Earth can bestow." She pinned the medal to Minji's uniform. The hangar erupted in applause. Soldiers who had mocked her now cheered her name. Officers who had doubted her now saluted her. Captain Daho Park approached after the ceremony. "Lieutenant Kim, I have a request." "Sir?" "I want to serve under your command," he said. "You've taught me that rank means nothing compared to vision. I was a fool to dismiss you. If you'll have me, I'd like to learn from you." Minji looked at him in surprise. Captain Park, who had fought her every step, now wanted to serve under her. "I'd be honored, sir," she said. The days after the siege were strange. Minji was suddenly famous. News of what happened at Titan VII spread across all of human space. The girl soldier who had saved thousands of lives. The 19-year-old commander who had earned the respect of an alien empire. People wanted interviews. Military academies wanted her to teach. Politicians wanted to use her story. It was overwhelming. But 1 week after the siege ended, Minji found herself alone on the observation deck. She looked out at the stars, at the deep black of space where the Varkin fleet had been. Private Narration found her there. "You okay, Commander?" "Sorry, Lieutenant. Just Minji is fine," she said. "And I don't know if I'm okay. Everyone treats me like a hero now. But I was terrified the whole time. I'm still terrified. In 50 years, they're coming back. What if next time I can't do it? What if next time I fail? Then we'll face it together," Narration said. "You taught us something important. You taught us that being scared doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're smart enough to understand the danger. But you did it anyway." Minji smiled. "When did you get so wise?" "I learned from my commander." They stood there together, 2 young soldiers looking at the stars. The galaxy was dangerous. The Varkin would return. There would be other battles, other challenges, other moments of terror. But for now, humanity had earned a chance. 50 years to prepare. 50 years to grow stronger. And when the Varkin returned, they would find that the girl they had tested had become a woman who was ready for them. Minji Kim, the soldier nobody believed in, had saved her people. And in doing so, she had proved that the greatest warriors aren't the ones who never feel fear. They're the ones who feel fear and fight anyway. She had been ridiculed, dismissed, called deadweight and weak and useless. But the enemy had seen the truth. They had seen her potential when her own people were. Blind. And now everyone knew what the Varkin had known from the start. That's sometimes the smallest. Soldier has the biggest heart. Sometimes the youngest voice speaks the wisest words. And sometimes the person everyone underestimates is exactly the person who will save them all.